Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just intend to take a very short call on this, but we have been asking the question all night, why has the government been so quiet on this bill? Why has the ACT Party been absolutely silent on this bill? And of course now we've figured out what it was all about, because they weren't prepared to admit, they weren't prepared to put themselves into a position where they had to accept that actually this bill that extends a bill that the Labour government brought in actually turned out to be originally a bill that the National Party, the National Opposition at the time, voted against. And it was interesting that the one member of the National Party who did get up and speak on this in the committee stage was Chester Borrows, and his contribution was quite good. It was quite a reasonable and measured contribution to the debate. And interestingly, I'm not sure about this, but in what I've been able to find in the last few minutes, I can't find that Mr Borrows made a contribution to the debate when the bill was first debated. But Tony Ryall spoke for him. Tony Ryall spoke on behalf of Mr Borrows, and he said that Chester Borrows will tell the people of Wanganui that under this legislation offenders will still get the money, and that's why people like Mr Borrows and Mr Ryall were going to vote against it. Well, this is the thing. This is the thing, that just a few years later, Mr Borrows has got up, and he's not telling the people of Wanganui that this is a terrible bill at all. He's getting up and telling us why it's such a fantastic bill and why it represents such progress from the government on law and order issues. Tony Ryall said that he would stop these payments. He did, of course, as my colleague pointed out, say that he would stop them under a Don Brash government, so he's managed to keep that promise. But he also said that the Labour government was prepared to mislead the public about the effects of this bill. Well, what is more misleading to the public than standing up and abusing a bill, telling the country that it will do nothing for victims' rights, that it will simply be in favour of offenders, that it's a misleading bill, and what do we get from this government? Just a few years later, they finally figured out what a good bill it is and why they should vote in favour of it. And of course the ACT Party was doing exactly the same. The ACT Party was pointing out all the areas they thought this bill was so deficient, but quietly, very quietly, silently in fact, they've supported the government. They've bowed down, done as they're told, done what the National Party says, and they have allowed this bill to go through, a bill which people like Stephen Franks got up and spoke so vehemently against when it was first mooted. Mr Speaker, this, as we've said throughout the night, is a nothing bill. It is nothing. It's quite innocuous. It really does nothing harmful, so Labour's happy to support it. But we have been asking that question all night. Why is the government so quiet? Why is the government so quiet? Because they weren't prepared to tell the New Zealand public just how much they misled them and how much of a U-turn this is. And that's why this government will never be the government that puts victims' rights at the centre of its policy, because it has no ideas on victims' rights. All it can do is regurgitate the ideas of the Labour government that when it was in opposition it thought was so bad. Mr Speaker, we're happy to see this bill go through, but this government has been found out tonight.